Hello, Bill Wadman.
Hello. Hi, Sandy. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. This evening is a little life. Have you got a little life, Bill?
A little bit left in me, yes.
What does that mean?
Or do you mean, do I have a little life as in a small contained lifestyle?
You can take the question either way. Anyway,
Okay.
what does it mean to have a little life?
See, at first one, I did take it as a little life force, like a consumable. I have a little life left in me. Uh, but then you could also very well think of it as I have a life that can sit inside of a teaspoon, a little life.
Mm. Anything else come up if you sit with it for a bit longer still?
Childhood.
Mm.
Um, yeah, that's all I got right now.
Okay. Um, do we actually know what it means to live?
No. Or rather, we can't experience the opposite, so we don't really, it's hard to define, right?
Right. And yet we seem to spend an inordinate amount of time puzzling over our lives, yet we don't know really what they are.
Yeah, I think because the alternative doesn't allow you any puzzling.
No, but then it begs the question, how do we know how to live life well? And what are the kind of calipers of that, or the definition of living life
Uh,
well?
they're different for every single person.
Of course, but I ask you.
Yeah. Uh, my definitions of a good life have changed over the last 20 years substantially.
Yeah.
Substantially changed over the last 2 years. Um, it's funny. I actually had a nice long conversation with my friend Simon today and was talking about how my perception and goals for my own life have become littler.
Does that mean that when younger, your goals were insurmountable?
No, but they felt um, I wanted the wrong things:
Well, like what?
fame, glory, money, all the things that young people want.
Well, not all young people.
True, true. But like it's the stuff that when you still are full of piss and vinegar that you think are important. When the reality is that things like this are what's important. Talking to my friend on the other side of the world about the meaning of life.
Are you trying to say that this isn't the very definition of success?
It absolutely is, but like I don't know that I would have thought that when I was young.
Oh, I don't know if I find that brilliant or troubling or both or not really.
That's generally what I do to you.
Anyway, I do question whether we can live life well, and all the things that connect to what life actually is are so kind of vague or even opaque.
Mhm.
Yet it's the thing we are, but we don't know it. So what does that mean? There's too much in it, really, I think, to do justice to it in a half hour.
Yeah, if you wanted to be someone better, then you wouldn't be you because you are your experiences. So if you change your experience, you'd be a different person.
Hmm. But anyway, you did kind of hit the nail on the head in context of the photographs I've chosen this evening, because they do all have um, representations of childhood or children.
Robert Doisneau.
L'information scolaire. What's fifth?
Like where in Paris is the fifth?
Cinquem. Is it cinque? Fifth, not five, cinque.
You're asking the wrong guy.
No.
Cinco. That's what fifth is.
Anyway, this photograph, looking at it, the side eye glance to steal the answers, I think is no, I mean from the little boy next door.
Yeah.
Whilst one is in kind of quiet reverie, puzzling over some problem, the other one
Did
is
you
no such kind of ambition. He just wants the answer. He doesn't want to think about it.
did you feel that your life was small when you were a kid?
No, I felt it was vast.
Yeah. Does it seem small to you now? Thinking
No,
about growing up in a castle by a loch in Scotland or wherever you grew up?
no, but I mean, I do think about this. I, in fact, just yesterday, today, thought and indeed talked about the change in my circumstances over the past few years, and then more recently moving out of a big and bespoke home
Mm-hmm.
now into temporary accommodation. And that, I suppose, in one way means that my life might have shrunk, or that as I get older, my life shrinks back because I become more fearful. But actually, the opposite is true.
Mm.
My life was big when I was small, and it remains as expansive now. And actually, my circumstances are the things that throw into relief for me how vast life is. Yes, it's small because we have to live on this planet, and this planet, depending on your perception, is either giant or minuscule. And my little life, I wonder if there's a relationship between satisfaction in living and whether our lives are little or not. I am satisfied with my little life in so many ways, and because of that, I have an enormous liberty. I feel very
Mhm.
lucky.
Do you think that there's a inverse sort of relationship between age and the way you see your life and circumstance? Like the older you get, the less their circumstances of your life affect how you see your life. You know, like when you're in your 20s, everything's externally defined. And as you get older, things become more internally defined. And you could be in one room in a small thing, and it's like, well, I'm still me. Who cares if I'm in this little room? Where if you're in your 20s, you're like, I'm only in this little room. I need to build and get bigger and take over the world and do whatever it is that, people need to do when they're young.
Hmm. I mean, I do remember
Like
being the
maybe you're less affected by your current situation as you get older. It's actually you're less shaken by change.
I'm thinking.
It's fine.
It will take me a while to get to that in my mind, I think. But I certainly know that I have glimpses now of a feeling of myself that are, I don't know, like a reawakening or something. That sounds quite regressive. I don't mean it that way. Maybe similar to what you're saying, as I get older, my circumstances don't phase me as much as they might have done
Yeah.
as a less experienced human. That makes
Because you're,
sense.
yeah.
But it's also, you know, an awareness of, it's too simple to say mortality, but it
Sure.
is
No,
that.
of course. I feel like it's in some ways your sense of self is more cured. It's like it's hardened a little bit, like it's less malleable and less easily deformed by the outside world.
Yes, but also we could say that as we come to realize life, there's never a full realization or actualization until death.
Yep.
But just to come back to the photograph more,
Sure.
these children are thinking about stuff It might be the math problem on the chalkboard, or it could be, some other great imponderable thing. But nonetheless, they have a little life, and their little life isn't defined by necessarily their problems.
Well, and to put a very obvious historical point on it, this is 1956. These kids are 7 years old. Their parents went through the worst period in history in the last 500 years, just a few years before.
Mm.
They are being born into peace and rebuilding and all the rest of it, and the Marshall Plan and all that nonsense, post World War II stuff, to parents who they can't even imagine the stuff their parents had seen.
Yes,
And
I mean,
neither maybe should they have. Yeah.
I showed the photograph to my friend who I'm living with at the moment, and she grew up in Germany, post-war Germany, and this would have aligned almost perfectly, she said, with what it was like in her schoolroom as a child in Munich.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, that children were kind of aware that something had happened, obviously.
Yeah.
That their concerns are the same concerns as our concerns now.
I mean, they have no context for it. So some buildings were still rubble. Like it doesn't mean anything to them because they weren't, you know what I mean? Like obviously they could feel it, but like they didn't experience it and they've got their own thing to figure out at the time.
I mean, this is something to consider or try and remember from one's own childhood, is that was our little life more or less apparent to us then?
Yeah. You sometimes wonder, was there something different going through the mind of these children than there was going through the mind of you in 1985 or whatever?
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, what do you think about that?
I mean, it's funny. I had a conversation with some young people I know recently, and they're, in their 20s. They were born after 9/11, right? So they're living in a different world. And it's like, and I mentioned how I remember I was taking a civics class in my first year of high school, so ninth grade. And it was, the Berlin Wall came down while we were taking a class about the differences between the West and East political systems.
Yeah.
I mean, like there, and it kind of blew their mind that I was alive and thinking person during the Cold War
Yeah.
because it's just outside their realm of reality. And it's like, yeah, I there was the USSR and I was there. You know what I mean? Like that was my this age kid was me in 1981, 82 when Reagan was building up nukes and you know we were in a real bottom point between the West and the East and all the rest of it. So it's crazy, yeah. But we all grow up in what we grew up in, and I think that is sort of like in computer programs, there's the idea of a seed. It's like a number you got to put in that the algorithm uses to do something with. And sometimes it's a random seed. And I think that like the seed that we in the late Cold War got as children is different than the seed our parents got in the early Cold War, is different than the kids nowadays got after 9/11. It's like they're starting with a different parameters.
I know that, but nonetheless, aren't they still the same? Aren't we still the same children?
As far as we're all concerned, yes. But I think if you step back and look at them, I think that they are different.
I was looking yesterday at a really old 3rd century AD shopping list written in Greek that had been
Sure.
found in Egypt somewhere. And it was written by a scholar, uh, Heraclides or something. Anyway,
Okay.
it was a note to his brother. There was a high levels of literacy at the time, even amongst otherwise poor people.
Mm-hmm.
Which surprised me. I didn't know that. But anyway, here is this shopping list asking for things like legumes. And it struck me that people are people. And I mean, this comes up over and over. We might think that we're so very different from each other even now, even though we live at the same time. But really, lots of evidence would suggest that, I know it's rather rudimentary to stake this claim on a shopping list, but we do have the same little lives.
Yeah. We still got to eat. I mean,
Anyway,
even the parents of these kids in 1943 or whatever it is during Nazi occupation, they still got to go buy fish and make dinner, you know?
and anyway, just as we were talking about it, I have this shot by Don McCullin. There's two actually that are, I like to put them as a pair when I'm teaching, and I've only put one here. This is East Germans looking into West Berlin. And then there's a partner image also from 1961, and it's West Berliners looking to the east. And there's a kind of sense of just not incredulity. There's no element of surprise or even disdain. There's just a kind of almost like bovine grazing, as if they're just like looking up and seeing this
Yeah.
thing.
What are they supposed to do about it? There's walls
Yeah.
going up and we're diverging as cultures, you know, like all of that. Yeah.
But anyway, the thing that I've always thought is particularly odd, poignant about this photograph is the boy.
On the right.
Mm. And I assume that the man and the woman to the left or to his right, probably his parents. And there he
Yeah.
is looking out at McCullin. And his little life is forever changed. But
Well,
such a,
also, he may be the only one of these people that actually sees the end of all of this.
yes, indeed. And isn't that the fascinating thing also looking at history through photographs is that, you know, there's like the concertina effect, the accordion of time. It's almost like seasickness coming in and out.
Mm-hmm.
We look back as he looks into the future, and the
Mm-hmm.
photograph records it. And somehow we have a push and pull of the time zones of our history, really. Anyway, he looks at us. There's lots of other looking going on, not necessarily over the wall, actually.
Yeah, they're looking at each other.
Looking at each other, wondering what the hell is this all about, maybe. Um, but you know, there are many things that can make us feel as if our little life is divvied up, isn't there? I mean, this is a giant wall.
Yeah. I think there are external factors that can make us feel small, and there's others that can make us feel empowered, right? Or do you always think it makes you feel small?
Phil,
I yeah.
do you feel small?
Uh, I'm coming to the not realization, but I'm starting to feel comfortable with the idea that whether or not I want to be, I am. We all are,
Mm.
and that's okay. Why do you?
Mm.
How do you feel?
Simultaneously gigantic and microscopic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I feel omnipotent and a prisoner simultaneously.
Well, but you know, also we are being extremely binary with this, aren't we? Big and small.
Sure. Well, I think that there's the spread. I feel like it's hard to say that you are somewhere in the middle. It's kind of I think people oscillate between the two, right?
No,
As a,
what I mean is that we're giving ourselves choices here. We're creating options on the scale from A to B.
Mhm.
Well, maybe we're not on a
Well,
scale.
you've already set up the points as A and B. How am I, what's between A and B? At least if you gave it numbers, there's decimals.
I just wonder about our little lives being And first of all, can we reconcile the smallness of our existence with the potential we might somehow be aware of in ourselves?
Well, I also think that there's, where your little life sits on the boundaries of things bigger than you, you know. I mean, this is around the time that you and I were growing up.
Mhm. Yeah.
Do you remember wearing clothes like this with, well, this is US, so maybe a little different, but like,
Also, I grew up I grew up in a very cold climate.
yeah, in a castle next to a lock, of course.
No, but joking aside, I do remember equivalent scenes like this
Yeah,
from childhood. Who doesn't? I mean, if you're from this era, in fact, I don't
sure.
really know when this stops. I don't know if this is something that actually would be as familiar to somebody growing up 2010s, maybe. But what strikes me about it is that these little lives are also kind of in a way they are the adult lives.
Well, yeah, but you know what? In 2010, you wouldn't have kids this age in a group without parents around outside next to a fire hydrant.
Yes, you would.
Mm, not around here, you wouldn't.
Why do you think that is, Bill? Have our
Because
little lives become very important? Have we become self-important?
no, I think that parents have gotten a little crazy.
Yes, but why? Look at that.
Uh, I think society has tightened the belt. So going outside of any band of success and whatever from age 5 on, and you're going to fail. The world's going to end if you don't get this internship when you're 8, this kind of stuff. Um, Not to be all crazy, reactionary, but we used to go build forts in the woods. I don't think kids go in the woods and build forts all that much anymore.
Mm. Again, I wonder if it's to do with where you are. I mean, I know what you're saying, but even thinking about, the people I teach in school, it's a it's a school on the edge of the New Forest. A lot of the kids I teach have grown up running around in the forest, in the woods.
Yeah.
Some of them lay claim to being, city
Yeah. Do they
kids.
have pointy ears and
Yeah. But really, the most city they get is Salisbury, and Salisbury is a, you know, beautiful,
it's got a
good,
great cathedral.
yeah. But as a city, it's very small,
Yep.
provincial.
Yep.
It's not the big smoke, put it that way.
Yeah.
Anyway, a little life. What does it mean to live well? These kids look, they're having a blast, don't they?
I guess the question is, if you were the adult taking this picture or somebody talking to these kids at this time, they may think that their life is this little street in this block.
Yep.
And, the kid sitting in front of the kids, maybe the kid on the bike is the local bully or something, right?
Mm.
And you could say, this doesn't matter. The world's a billion times bigger than this, and none of this. But do you want to dispel that notion? Do you want to dispel that fantasy of a contained life? There's the idea of it being small is that it's contained to some extent, right? So there's boundaries that you're within, and there's walls protecting the outside from the inside, and all these kinds of ideas. And I think we as humans, I mean, I went for a walk today around Prospect Park with my friend and came back and got a sandwich on the way home and sat here and I'm talking to you. And I'm living my weird little life in Brooklyn, right?
Yep.
And other people would say, "Oh my God, you didn't drive anywhere? You walk everywhere you go unless you take the subway?" Yeah, I do. You know, um, Maybe my life is small.
But
It's little.
this is what I love about it. is that, as you say, these children might think their whole world is on this block,
Hmm.
and their little life is as expansive as anybody's.
Yeah.
Anybody else, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If somebody has, the great luxury of being wealthy, or of traveling with ease, or any of these conditions, it's still a little life. And
Yeah. It's just,
nonetheless, the little life can still be a thing of enormous beauty, is a
yeah.
thing, just through its sheer vitality.
Yeah, your scale shifts. It could be that your scale is feet, and then it becomes miles, and then it becomes, hundreds of miles. But then, but your life still fits within whatever container you give it, right? It's still a small life in whatever size container you have.
Yeah, and I was also, the last little while, as I said, the circumstances of my life have changed such that I now kind of crave a smallness to my world. And I was thinking about it really in terms of working with a group of year 7 kids, so like at age 11,
Hmm.
quite a long time ago now, on notions of utopia. What is utopia, and what do we put there? And really, we became like town planners for utopia. And when I think about my circumstances now and what I'm trying to do to move forward in terms of my living situation and the navigation of my logistical, practical life, I rather like that, apart from the work I do in school, my other work, um, at the studio that and my home, and all my favorite little shops and restaurants and cafes are all pretty much within three blocks. Now, such a small kind of geographical space might sound terribly dull to some people, and to me, it is sounding like an enormous privilege, and also
Oh,
something that
yeah.
can bring me up in so many other ways.
I think it is a privilege just being able to do, I think being able to define that domain for yourself is a huge privilege, right? Being able to decide what your world is.
Yeah, but it made me think about the planning for utopia with those year 7 kids. We put a school on the corner. We put
Mhm.
a post box, near to a shopping parade. We put,
Sure.
all the things. We
It
put,
ends up looking like a Richard Scarry book or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what this is, maybe.
By the way, who wrote Utopia the book? Thomas More? No. Who's the guy? The original book in like the 17th century or something? It's a
You know,
Brit.
the term utopia was coined by we talked about it a few episodes ago. I can't remember. We've talked about it in the past.
It was a Thomas More though. Yes.
Thomas More.
Uh, yeah. It's 1516.
Anyway, are you happy with your little life?
I'm actually generally happier by the day, which makes me more and more scared of losing it.
Oh, you're just never happy, Bill Wadman.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen,
Till next time.
yeah.